You're listening to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast with Mike Chappell and Dave Griffiths.
Inside the Fox 59 CBS 4 podcast studio, welcome to the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. Alongside Mike Chappell and Matt Adams, I'm Dave Griffiths, and I was wrong. Let's just get it out of the way.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
No, it's cool.
I really wasn't.
I mean, I would have been insufferable if I was right, so it's cool. I get it. I picked the Colts to beat the Lions last week. I had some reasons. Most of them is just about history and betting on history. It's the same reason why I'm never going to pick the Colts to win week one until they do.
Or Jacksonville.
It's the same reason I'm never going to pick the Colts to win in Jacksonville until they do, because streaks continue. That's what they do. And I get one wrong once in a while, and that's cool, and whatever. And I, you look at the game as well, and we'll get into this week's game, of course, against the Patriots. We'll talk about other stuff as well, some injury notes and news for the team that's going to be significant. But we will start off just recapping the Lions game a little bit. It's not like they were destroyed. It's not like they were blown out. You look at the final score is 24-6, and it looks like it was not close. It looks like the Colts offense was extremely grounded. And there were times when it was not going well, Chap. But I didn't come away from that game thinking the Colts were 18 points worse than the Lions on that field on that day.
But once they settled for 2 field goals, you thought,
right,
that's it. You can't. Your field goals aren't going to win it.
No.
And I sort of grudgingly give the defense credit for keeping them to 24 points and 390 yards, I think it was. I thought that was almost a reflection of the Lions saying, this is what we need to do to win.
Perhaps.
I think if they needed to do more, they would have done more. I never really got the feeling after the field goals that even when the game was close that the Colts were one play away. Because, was it 10 penalties? 5 cost them 98 yards. I
was going to say, when they got that one play, it was going to get called back anyway.
And we can argue whether, they got the 98 yards because you cheated. You had penalties. But still, every time they did something, it was negated. And I wrote about it, we've talked about it, until they get the offensive line fixed and until they can find a tight end who can do something.
Yeah.
Going into the stadium, I ran into Jack Doyle. And right now, I'd take him.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
And then I saw Ken Dilger. Ken Dilger's probably a little too old for that, but you can't. It's so hard when you've got an offensive coach who loves to use tight ends, and they've got like 26 catches.
That is
you
unfathomable.
It is.
It is to me. And I know that like the tight end room got a hit when Jelani Woods is out for the second year in a row. I get it, but at the same time,
but he wasn't proven.
Exactly. That's the point.
Right.
He wasn't proven at all. And I look around, man, and I see Brock Bowers tearing it up for the Raiders. And you look back to all those stories, the post-draft stories that the Colts were desperately trying to move up. And we thought at the time, and I still do, that Malik Neighbors was probably the guy they were after.
I was told by someone I trust that they were moving up, trying to move up for Neighbors.
There we go.
And they never would have taken a tight end at 5,
at
was
5
it?
or 6, no.
No.
But they were still trying to move up, I think.
I would like to know how hard they tried to move up 3 or 4 spots ahead of the Raiders.
Right.
Or two spots ahead. Mm-hmm. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
What would they have done if it's Brock Bowers or
Latu there? Who would they have taken?
Don't you take the edge pass rusher? I don't know. I don't know.
That's a question.
But they've got the tight end room. I just never thought it would be this ineffective, and I don't understand Will Mallory not being more I don't say more involved.
Right?
Involved.
He
period.
showed a little
Just
last
on
year
the field.
as a rookie. He showed a little. He showed something.
And I'm sure he's not a blocker. Kylan Granson's not a blocker. I don't get it when they're making changes here and there. How you're not. And I'm not saying Will Mallory's going to go out there and catch 10 balls for 150 yards. I'm not.
Right.
But no one else is doing anything. And then to have Drew Ogletree just
flat drop. Flat drop.
It was 7-on-7.
And this wasn't one like we've seen Richardson just rear back and fire some of these balls.
This
was a very, very catchable, right where it needed to be ball. And fatalistically, when Drew Ogletree dropped that pass, and I knew that the Colts were going to have to settle for a field goal, I thought that was the game.
That's
right
what
there.
I mean. You've got so few opportunities. You've got to play as clean as possible against the best team in the league. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're not one, they're 1 or 2. They're probably 1. They're probably the best team. You just can't. You cannot do the mistakes that they had the mistakes, and then when you get the defense, keeping it winnable.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's still a stretch because I think the Lions could have done more if they needed to. But they did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
If you would have told them we're going to keep the Lions to 24, you think that's pretty good because
you might take that.
You might take it. It's kind of like the Minnesota game. We're going to give you 4th and 2 at the 40 with 3 minutes to play, whatever.
Right.
You take it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just these guys are not good enough to make the mistakes. They had, I spend too much time looking up stats, but they lost with no turnovers and no sacks. They had been 37-3 in team history with that because you just don't normally lose a game when you're that clean.
Right.
Well, then you have 10 penalties.
That was the unclean part.
Mm-hmm. So, and it wasn't necessarily you can win with 10 penalties, but not when it's every time you have a big play.
Right.
20 yards, 30 yards, 21 yards. Taylor's 19 yards. So that's not the way to go forward. I did not going into the game. I wasn't as concerned with the win. I didn't think they were going to win, unlike you did. But I wanted to see Richardson stack another game, and I thought if you just look at the stat line, you can think another crappy game by the quarterback.
39% of his passes. That doesn't look good post.
But I thought he played pretty well. There were probably 3 or 4 throwaways down in the red zone. He just threw it out of the end zone. And again, the plays that didn't count. So I'm not saying he was, playing winning football, but he was playing close to winning football. But everyone around him was awful.
Right, and it goes to the drops. It goes to the penalties. You have to help your developmental quarterback along, and it didn't really happen. You look at the Lions, and you say that you think they could be the best team in the NFL. That's certainly a great argument to be made for them. Certainly among the NFC, it's them and the Eagles are 1-2.
Right.
And there is no coincidence that those are the 2 best running teams in the NFL, I don't think. Like this year, with the passing game just down across the league, the best running teams have turned into the best teams. Baltimore's up there too. Like the Bills are
Buffalo.
A good running team too. Like those teams are the ones that scare you right now. Guys that can gain 5 yards, 6 yards on the ground.
Detroit's not one of them, but that's because you've got a quarterback who's going to give you 40 or 50 yards when you need it in the run game.
Yeah, it's true. Like Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is a tremendous one
good.
too. Yeah, they are. Combination. I'd take either one of them. Absolutely. And the Colts just can't get anything going in the run game right now. Chap, we were talking about this actually on the car ride over. We were saying that the storyline a couple weeks ago when the Colts were switching back and forth between Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson, and I think we talked about it on this podcast, was, well, shoot, the Colts are getting Anthony Richardson back as the starter. And Jonathan Taylor was so much better.
Pick your poison and this, that, and the other.
In those games. Again, with Anthony Richardson at running. And with Joe Flacco, they had struggled a little bit to get the run game going. So maybe with Richardson back, it gives the energy back to the run game, they get going. That has absolutely not happened the last 2 weeks. And the reason for that is probably a lot less to do with the quarterback, Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson, even though Richardson can be dynamic himself in the run game. But the reason is so much more so that they have an offensive line that has been banged up and has 3 rookies starting, including one that is an undrafted rookie who just over time, undrafted rookie, the water finds its level, and with undrafted rookies, the level is not that high.
Right.
And that's what it is. The offensive line has not been performing up to standard.
First half of the season, first third of the season, played pretty well. One of the top 5 offensive lines, if you trust Pro Football Focus. Mm-hmm. But again, it just chipped it away, and Will Fries. I think everyone nationally probably doesn't know much about Will Fries. He's still ranked number 4 by Pro Football Focus among guards, 4th, and Dalton Tucker is 68 or 69. So, and the tragic part, the unfortunate part with Will Fries is it's a contract year.
Yeah,
and this cost him. He would have gotten Glowinski, I think, signed with the Giants. Mm-hmm. 3 years, $19 million.
Yep.
Well, that's probably what Will Fries would have commanded.
And it was like 3 years ago, and the numbers are only going up.
They're only going up.
Yep.
So now he's going to get that Tyquan Lewis 1 year, $2-3 million, and
it's probably going to be right here in Indy because people here know him better than elsewhere.
So, but it's not a. Every time we ask whether it's Shane Steichen or Jim Bob about, there's no excuses. You got to. But there are reasons, and the reason, one of the main reasons the run game's not working, is the offensive line. And the last 4 games, I think I looked at 92 yards a game and 3.7 a carry. And this is with Richardson doing what he's doing. Taylor is averaging 63 yards and 3.7 over his last 4, and that includes 114 yards or whatever it was against Minnesota, because he had 2 big carries. Remember the 58-yarder? Mm-hmm. He's had like 4 carries of over 10 yards in the last 4 games. That's not – Taylor's a guy that needs volume because he's going to break 3 in a game.
Right.
And they're not getting that now.
The Lions on the other side, I was impressed so much by their run game. Not that every time that they ran the ball, they would get 8 yards, but sometimes on first and second down, there'd be some short runs. But then on 3rd and 8,
they converted 2 big ones.
They would convert in the run game. So they had the right calls at the right time against the right defense.
And the trust to call it.
Yes,
for
exactly.
all those reasons.
It goes from the top, from the head coach Dan Campbell to the offensive coordinator Ben Johnson to the quarterback Jared Goff, who, by the way, Lucas Oil Stadium, this is a couple times this year that the opposing fans,
maybe at least 3,
have been very, very loud, significantly loud, audibly just as loud.
Jared Goff and Let's Go Lions.
Yep. A lot of Jared Goff chants. How about Jared Goff, by the way? His resurgence there. To hear a fan base rally around this cast-off quarterback and be chanting his name on the road for your what are they, 9-1, 10-1 now team, 10-1 now team. That's remarkable. Kudos to Jeff. I'm glad for the city of Detroit, and we don't have to suffer through them on Thanksgiving anymore, like we're going to have to suffer through the Giants-Cowboys game that's coming up tomorrow. Is
that the 4 o'clock game?
Yeah, it is, with Cooper Rush. And now Tommy DeVito is hurt.
He's questionable.
It's going to be
so is it Locke?
Drew Lock,
Aye.
ladies and gentlemen, will probably be the starting quarterback for.
The one thing would have been better, and it obviously didn't happen, is if Jerry Jones had signed Daniel Jones.
Yes.
And have Jones start agaagainst the Giants.
That
would have been must see.
Hilarious, yes.
But not to be.
And I wouldn't put it past Jerry Jones to do that, just to make it must see television.
Also cautious, whatever the rest of his contract was, which isn't much.
Right.
But that would have been cool.
It would have been quite funny. So the Colts move on with a 5-7 record. Hang on. Yes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep, just making sure. I didn't see it on the paper.
It's not listed on here
anywhere. That's okay. I was trying to get it on the top of my head. I do want to look around at the playoff standings right now, because we're getting to that point that this is December football. And the Colts have 5 games left, Chap, in this regular season. They are... There, you do not see a Detroit Lions anywhere else the rest of the way from these 5 games, and there's a pool of teams.
They can go 4-1 and get in, I think.
Okay, there's a pool of teams that are in there that will be competitive for these last final spots in the playoffs. Sorry, I'm delaying because I'm getting it up. Here we go.
Denver's number 7.
Yeah. So in the playoff standings right now, you have the top wild card at 5 is Baltimore at 8-4. They're probably looking pretty good up there to either win their division with Pittsburgh, who's now 8-3, or to make one of the wild cards. And then at 7-4, the Chargers are 6th in the or 2nd in the wild card standings. And 3rd in the wild card standings, the last wild card team would be the Denver Broncos at 7-5. So we have 8-4, 7-4, 7-5. Obviously, the discrepancies in the number is going to be ironed out in the next 2 weeks when all NFL teams kind of finish their bye weeks, including the Colts, and move on from there. So after 7th with Denver at 7-5, so all those winning teams, it jumps down to Miami in 8th at 5-6. And Miami has won 3 in a row right now.
Got their quarterback back.
Big game for Colts fans to watch is Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, Miami on the road at Green Bay. Because Green Bay, obviously, in the NFC, is a wild card team right now at 8-3 because they're behind Detroit at 10-1. Heck, Minnesota is 9-2 in a wild card team. The NFC North is insane. And the Colts have lost to all 3 of those teams, Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit.
Beat the Bears.
They beat the Bears. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, take that, Bears. Beat the Steelers, too, at 8-3. So maybe that's the AFC Championship team.
That'll be the one game that you pointed out that will keep the streak going.
Yeah, or Tennessee just keeps winning games themselves, and they make it all the way to the AFC Championship game like fools that they are.
Boy, Houston is just...
Exactly. But
again.
like we said this last week, like the AFC South leader, like the past couple years,
saying here
has fallen terribly.
They've lost 3 or 4.
It was the Jaguars last year when they were number 1 seed basically in the AFC halfway through the year. And
choked it all away.
And then the year before the Titans, it was the
Houston won't choke this all away because the Colts aren't helping them.
No, the Colts. That's the worst thing about it for the Colts is that while the Texans have lost all those games, the Colts have also lost all those games.
Houston's 3 or 4, and the Colts are 4 or 5.
They weren't even able to make up a game on them during this
stretch.
stretch.
They actually lost half a game because they played an extra game.
So anyway, we get to number 9, and that's where the Colts sit right now in the AFC standings. So 2 spots out of the wild card, right behind Miami. The Colts are 5-7. Miami 5-6. So they've just played 1 fewer game than them. So they're 1 game back in the loss column, and then Cincinnati, right behind the Colts at 4-7. Has played 1 fewer game, but same in the loss column. So, I mean, you look at those teams vying for the wild card, and you look at the quarterbacks of these teams. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, MVP. Chargers, Justin Herbert, playing really darn good under Jim Harbaugh there. Denver, Bo Nix, having a heck of a year as a rookie. We will see how he does down the stretch because he's about to play more games in the season and more tougher games than he has at any point in his career before. Number 8, Miami, Tua Tagovailoa. Got him back.
What a surprise. They're playing better than they got their guy back.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, they're actually a pretty decent team over there, the Dolphins. Colts, Anthony Richardson, and then 10 Bengals, Joe Burrow. There is one quarterback who is obviously not in the same regard as the others right now. I'm talking right now, specifically referring to the way Bo Nix is playing. But Anthony Richardson would probably be the last guy you would take of all of those quarterbacks to win a game this year. Is that ridiculous for me to say?
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
Okay. So down the stretch, the Colts are going to need some help. They're going to need to help their developmental quarterback, which is, like you were saying earlier, Chap, exactly what they did not do against the Lions. He played well enough to at least be competitive against one of the better teams, you think, in the NFL. But it was everyone else, the penalties, what have you. That was just not enough at the end of the day. That's something that needs to change down the stretch this season.
Yeah, because, again, if you look at it, the numbers, don't hold me to the strict numbers, but the last 5 teams are like 17-40 that they play. Maybe Matt's got his here.
I think so.
I was going to say the only team with a winning record is Denver.
And again, I think you can go 4-1 and get in, but you have to beat Denver. If you don't beat Denver, it doesn't matter.
You need to beat the other teams that you're challenging.
Right, because they've got if it comes to it, they've got a tie break with Miami. They've got a tie break with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I still think Pittsburgh at the end is going to be hanging on by its fingernails.
I think so too.
They've got a tough schedule, but again, it's there. But it's only there, and we keep. I know whenever I post playoff stuff, people rip me. This isn't a playoff team. Well, the fact is that they're still right there.
Yep.
And if they but they have to take care of their business. No one expected them to do much over that 4 or 5 game stretch. Although there were a couple games that were so winnable. Minnesota was so winnable.
Yep.
It was. Buffalo, not really. But they're simply running out of weeks to make something matter. And you cannot lose to New England, which Drake May's playing better.
Not bad.
Not bad. Yeah. But the Giants are a dumpster fire. Tennessee, I don't know what to make of them. I'm almost going to credit that game in Houston more to Houston than to Tennessee.
Yeah.
But then Jacksonville. I mean, who I just don't know. But if you can't go 4-1 here, then you've got no business. And I think 4-1 would maybe the fan base probably won't be happy. But 9-8, and if you don't get in with what you've gone through, it'll be viewed as not successful, but semi-okay. Fan base won't like it. But I think it'll be enough to keep major changes from not happening.
Right. I agree.
But anything less than 4-1 against this last 5, something's wrong.
You mentioned Minnesota was a winnable game, and I wanted to let you keep going. But the funny thing about Minnesota, they were 5-0, and then they lost 2 in a row. They beat the Colts. They've won 4 in a row since. So they're 5-0, 0-2, 4-0. So that's a streaky team in Minnesota. They got back on their feet against the Colts there.
But again, until this team gets the O-line fixed, the running game fixed in tight ends, they've another stat that I always think they're really interesting. They've gone no offensive touchdowns in 2 of the last 4 games.
That is not sustainable.
And from 2000 to 2023, it was 11 games. So you just can't. We're talking Mr. Obvious stuff here. You can't compete consistently And I hear criticisms about Steichen and this, that, and the other. I understand it. By the same token, he dialed up 4th and 1 last year against Houston, which was a great call. They didn't execute. He dials up whatever down it was from the 11-yard line against Detroit, and the guy drops it. So, it comes back to players, and I'm curious, we'll get into a little bit about what this receiver group is going to be this week with Josh Downs virtually not going to play.
Yeah.
Michael Pittman is banged up. I think Alec Pierce is banged up. And your healthiest receiver, Mitchell, I don't know if you trust him on what he's going to do. So,
I don't think so.
These are games you should win. You'll be favored. I hope they're favored. I haven't looked here.
Probably not against Broncos, but
against
all the others.
This week. But it doesn't matter unless you play well.
Yeah. See, and also Doolin's banged up as well.
Correct.
Yeah,
I don't think he plays. So
And
we need to look at the practice squad and see who the receivers are on the practice squad.
DJ Montgomery, come on down.
He'll be the one. They went to him a few times last year.
He did.
Don't they have Treadwell still?
Laquan Treadwell's still there, and he was promoted, I think, a couple weeks ago. To the roster.
We were talking and joking that we're at the point in the season where they make practice squad moves and they release somebody, and I think they're making up names. Because I simply...
You're like, I don't know who that is.
David Long, okay, I remember him, and was it... who's a Derek guy?
Derek
Rivers.
Rivers, yes, that's it.
Defensive end. But they released another guy that, nah. You're just trying to make us look at it and see if we're paying attention. But that's the problem now is you're reaching so far down on the depth chart, which is where they are on the offensive line with Danny Pinner probably starting. And Danny Pinner has played as many offensive snaps this year as I have. Which is probably is good in my part, but not on his. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, the Colts take on the Patriots this week in Foxborough. Some injury notes that we will mention. Josh Downs. What Shane Steichen specifically said was, "quote It's going to be tough." And what does that mean?
Well, in his jargon, that means I hope he plays again this year.
Yeah,
because he's more guarded. Like I got in on Frank Reichs when the week to week and all this stuff. I kind of knew what he meant. Shane, we don't know, but for him to say it's going to be tough, that he virtually ruled him out in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be this week and maybe multiple weeks.
Agreed.
But so that's kind of what I'm leaning toward. But since we haven't seen him on IR, it's not that bad yet, I would think.
To put a guy on IR now means he's done.
Basically, the season's over. Yeah, you only have 5 games left.
Come back for the playoffs type of thing.
Yeah, okay. Good luck.
Really?
Yeah, we mentioned Ashton Doolin as well. Bernard Ryman will be limited today in a walkthrough.
But that's semi-encouraging.
It is. It's
that he's
better.
At least limited.
You'd rather have a guy on the field than not on the field, and he has been the last 2 weeks when they walked through
he's been
on
out.
Wednesday. He's been out during walkthrough, so that's been very bad, as we have noted, and pretty telling as to what was going to happen. Limited in walkthrough? Nah. We'll see. Thursday he might be limited again, I would imagine, because that's really their only full, strong practice day.
I hope he's full tomorrow.
Exactly.
I would feel much better if he's full tomorrow.
I would too. And then
they need him real bad there on that left edge.
Then we shall see.
If he can return and put Gonsalves at right guard.
Right. That's possible. Yes. Because he played guard in.
He was a 5. He played 5 positions in preseason in training camp.
Okay. Yeah.
They moved him around quite a bit. But he's still a rookie, and then you're having a rookie go from one position to another dramatically different position, but still, they've got to get that right guard solved because they've gotten as much out of Tucker as you'd expect.
I can still see Aleem McNeil just
walked him back,
running right over him,
or walking him back into the quarterback.
Aleem McNeil is one of those underrated defensive linemen in the NFL.
Really, really
he's
good.
Tough, man, really tough. And if outside of Detroit, not enough people know who he is. I mean, I remember seeing him here when the Colts and Lions were in training camp together, like last year. Be like, who is this 54 or whatever his number is guy? See, I don't even know his number, which I should know because he's a pretty darn good player. I think it's 54. But like that's not a normal number for a defensive tackle, so it stood out that way.
What's it been, 2 or 3 years
really
since
good.
they've moved numbers around?
Yeah.
You see numbers 0 or whatever, and I still can't get used to that.
Chap's not having it.
I don't.
The traditional numbers, daggone it.
And boy, for so long they kept it. I mean, it took something for receivers to go to.
Keyshawn Johnson getting 17. I remember was a big deal back in the day when he was able to do that.
But seeing like Micah Parsons, what's he, 11?
11.
It's just hard to get used to. But that's the new world.
Chap wants the NFL players to get off his lawn and
correct.
Yes, and just wear the dang number. You're supposed to. And we'll all be happy at the end of the day. Tanner Bortolini in concussion protocol. Shane Steichen told us we will see. I mean, we'll see how he's listed today. He needs to be full today. Mm-hmm. Does he need to be full today?
Well, I just give you an
indication. He needs to be limited first, doesn't he? Like he needs a limited practice.
That's true. Yeah. He does need to be limited then full.
Yes.
Okay, limited full tomorrow and then
full Friday,
full
and then
Friday,
you can
and
get
the independent assessment.
He needs to be something other than did not practice.
Right. That would certainly be helpful. And Danny Pinter, chirp, Ball State could be in line to.
Maybe that's what's been missing.
Danny
not
Pinter
enough Ball State influence.
Listen, in 22, when Ryan Kelly was out near the end of the season,
they went 3-0 with Pinter at center.
They did. How about that? I mean, that was 21. Excuse me, 22 when he was trying to start at guard.
That didn't go so
well. So it was 21 back when Pinter was starting that the Colts made their late season charge there before the late season.
They really
collapse.
paid off dividends there. In that year.
Indeed it did. And then Mark Lewinsky indeed could be a right guard if there is a change.
And that will tell you how desperate they are.
If we see him elevated from the practice squad, we're going to know.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right, because and again, I was surprised, and I don't have the guy's name that they elevated on game day from the practice squad. Glowinski wasn't ready; he had practiced twice.
No.
But Josh Sills is on that practice squad. He started a few games, but they're just and it's hard when you have injuries like this to say you needed more depth. Well, they had pretty good depth. It's just when you lose 3 guys. And Kelly's on IR for this game, and then he's eligible for the Denver game. You can only, you're going to carry 10. So I guess they should have had a couple more veterans on the practice squad. But when you have these kind of injuries, it's hard to say, well, you should have had a 10th or 11th guy that can play. It's just been too much on their depth to kind of bring in people who you feel comfortable with.
Well, let's take a look at the New England Patriots, as that is the team in line to face the Colts this week. They have lost 3 of their last 4 games, and they are 0-3 against the AFC South so far this season. The Colts will be the final team in the division, obviously, that they play. They've had 8 games where they've scored less than 20 points, and they've actually won 2 of them. So it's a defensive squad there led by head coach Gerard Mayo, the former middle linebacker for Bill Belichick, and then after that, linebackers coach under Bill Belichick.
They beat the Bengals.
How about that? Somehow they beat the Bengals in
1.
Cincinnati. Week 1. 16-10, I believe it was back then.
A long time ago, feels like.
Yes, it does. And then after that has been not very impressive. It has caused them to turn to the rookie, Drake May, at quarterback. The youngest starting quarterback in the NFL, taking that honor from Anthony Richardson, of course. 1,458 passing yards, completing 65.7% of his passes, even though he doesn't have Josh Downs to throw to like he did back in college at UNC. Still finding a couple guys to in the secondary there and hit them boom, boom. 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's been sacked 21 times in 8 games, which is not a low number. 33 carries for 286 yards, mostly because he's running for his life.
I think Steichen or someone mentioned it, that he leads the NFL quarterbacks in scramble yards.
Yes.
Which is kind of good for him, but it means you're not protecting him very well.
No, and not well at all. And this offensive line in New England, you think the Colts offensive line has troubles. Like this one has definitely had issues throughout this entire season as well. They have not figured out how to block, and that's kind of important. For an NFL offense to be consistent, to help your young quarterback again, like we're talking with Anthony Richardson. And that's maybe some reason why the Patriots didn't want to start him at the start of the year, because they looked at their offensive line.
Could very well be. Go out there, Jacoby, and you're used to getting sacked
Jacoby Brissett
11 times
against Jacksonville that one fateful day in 2017.
God, that was awful.
Yes, that was pretty bad. Almost as bad as the last time the Colts were in Foxborough. And Mike Chappell has a good story in the Colts locker room from today about that last Colts trip to Foxborough.
It's just a casual day today, and everybody's around Richardson, and the quarterbacks are all there together.
We're waiting for Richardson to come in at this point.
Yeah, and Sam Ellinger's there. And Sam is such a great guy. He really is. And I said, so, are you looking forward to getting back to New England? He said, no. I said, do you remember that game? He said, yep. I said, there's video. Is it 9 sacks? Was it Matthew Judon?
Matt Judon,
yep.
just had a heck of a day.
I was joking with, because I can joke, and Sam was good about, going with it, but
Right.
I said that year that you're supposed to put your players not in a position to fail. And all year the Colts put guys in position to
Just
fail.
repeatedly.
Including the interim head coach.
Mm-hmm.
But it still is one of the worst offensive performances by a Colts team. I can't remember what they finished up with yardage, but it was 9 sacks, and he was under constant siege.
Yep. I was there. So here's another place that Dave returns
It's just
to the
that
scene of
theme.
the crime.
It's just the common denominator is you.
I apologize for that in advance. I have seen some great ones, like Baltimore last year. I was in Baltimore for the Colts beating the Ravens. Come on, the Matt Gay game. Give me some credit here.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not just
they won
me.
in spite of you.
They did. Congratulations to them. But I mean, if this was still a Belichick team, I don't care if they were 3-9. Like I would pick the Patriots in a second because of how he has treated rookie quarterbacks in the past. So Gerard Mayo comes in. They did get a win against, and I say rookie quarterbacks, and I know Anthony Richardson is not a rookie, so I need
young quarterbacks that don't have a lot of experience.
Yes,
I mean, he's still under that banner.
Yes, they're still kind of that banner. That's kind of how we talked about 2 years ago when we talked about Sam Ellinger going in and starting.
Was that his second? That was his second. Was his second start?
Was it? I thought it was his first start. I
thought
that was it.
Washington was before or after?
Washington.
Oh boy.
Because they should have beat the Commanders.
I thought Washington was
that was
after,
Terry McLaurin beat Gilmore.
Beat Gilmore, yeah. Matt can look that up while we.
But the last time the Colts won in New England, I believe, was 2006. Back when there were 2 pretty good quarterbacks playing.
Yep. So that's a long time ago. That last win in New England. The Patriots will wear their Pat Patriot helmets and uniforms, which are one of the best. One of the best.
We should know never to challenge Chap undefeated there. So yeah, Washington 17-16. Was
I thought so.
Game.
And then
next week was New England.
And then the wheels came off.
Okay, there we go. The Pat Patriot uniforms, one of the best throwbacks in the NFL.
Absolutely.
The one with the guy with
with
the white helmet with the white face mask.
Yep.
White face mask and the red jerseys.
Because I've been around long enough. That used to be their uniform.
Of course.
Back in the late 80s and all that.
The Irving Fryer years.
I was thinking quarterback Steve Grogan.
Yes.
And all those guys and Doug Flutie. But those were cool uniforms.
Really cool uniforms. I completely agree.
So the Colts ought to wear their Indiana Knights.
Yeah, let's bring them out as they're 0-2 in those Indiana Knights uniforms. Break. Yeah, maybe not.
Don't like the blue jean uniforms?
No, definitely not.
No.
Let's see. The Patriots do have a couple of former Colts on their team. We mentioned Jacoby Brissett already, who's the backup quarterback and team captain. A few others as well. Eric Johnson, a 2022 draft pick at defensive tackle. Titus Leo, a 2023 draft pick at defensive end / linebacker. And the venerable Yannick Ngakoue. Chalk him up for 8 sacks a year. And trying to run around an offensive tackle on every single play out there, which that's what Gus Bradley wanted from him. So I'm not.
Don't worry about containment on the outside. Just get the quarterback.
Just go for the quarterback. I mean, that was what the scheme is supposed to be. And hey, if that's what it is, you need somebody else.
Correct.
Like behind you to clean things up there, and you need 2 defensive tackles that are pretty good, which the Colts had. So. I mean, it's not the worst idea, and I know people love to rip on Gus Bradley because we've seen it over the last couple weeks. But again, like defense, I'm gonna say this quickly, and we can get back to the Patriots. But defense has not been the Colts' primary problem.
It's a problem. It's not
over the past couple weeks.
It's not.
Yes.
Top 6 or 7.
No,
it's just not.
So it's sexy to rip on Gus Bradley. You're the cool kids in Colts fandom, I guess, online and on Twitter. I get it, but it's just not the biggest thing to be upset about.
Well, he told us on Tuesday that they were their goal was to limit the explosive plays, and had they played differently defensively, the Lions were totally capable of giving you explosive plays. Mm-hmm. So, they did what they could. They held them to 24 points. You can argue with the results, but there's been 3 or 4 games that they have simply kept games winnable. Mm-hmm. Green Bay and Minnesota, and the offense hasn't done its share.
At running back, Ramondre Stevenson leads the way for the Patriots with 162 carries for 598 yards, with an average that would make even the Steelers blush at 3.7 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns for him this year. 28 catches for 118 yards out of the backfield and a touchdown there as well. Running back Antonio Gibson is their backup, the former Washington Commander. He has 72 carries for 311 yards, averaging 4.3 a pop there. I'll tell you what they do have are a pair of tight ends that
very, very good.
aren't too shabby.
They signed those both in free agency the same year, if I'm not mistaken. 2 or 3 years ago.
I think you're right.
Pretty good contracts.
Hunter Henry, number 1, with 51 catches, is their leading receiver. Also has 535 yards, and 1 touchdown. Austin Hooper is your second tight end at 27 catches for nearly 300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
What's curious about those two numbers?
What's that?
Each one of those guys has more catches than the Colts tight ends room.
The entire tight ends room.
Yeah.
Combined. The Colts have 26.
26.
So
Demario Douglas is their top wide receiver with 48 catches for 477 yards, so basically averaging 10 yards a catch and 1 touchdown. Kendrick Bourne, another receiver, 16 catches, 170 yards, and 1 touchdown. So, the problem with the Patriots is, they're not getting great production for any of these guys. You see 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. They don't score a lot, which, Matt, you mentioned earlier, that they've scored 20 points, under 20 points. You mentioned in our rundown, rather, in
just 8 games, they'd failed to crack 20 points.
There you go. Thank you. I knew you'd have it on the top of your head. I couldn't find it on the sheet. Appreciate it. Their top tacklers on this year, linebacker Jelani Tavai, 83 tackles for him. And Anthony Jennings, another linebacker with 56. Marcus Jones, cornerback, has 51. Sack leaders, defensive end Dietrich Wise Jr. has 5. And Keon White, the other defensive end, also has 5. Let's take a look at the tremendous offensive rankings for the Patriots.
This is just a spectacular offense.
It's like you cut and pasted the same line for every line, right?
Patriots. The Patriots are 31st in the NFL in scoring, just 16.4 points per game. The Colts are 21st, a little bit better there, at 20.2 per game.
Still not great.
The Patriots are 32nd, dead last in total offense, 280.2 yards per game. Colts are 22nd at 316 yards per game. A little bit better, still not great. Patriots are 32nd, dead last in passing yards per game, averaging just 167 per game. Colts are 24th, which is not that great either, but a little bit better. 199.7 yards per game. Rushing, big boon for the Patriots, up from the doldrums to 21st in the NFL in rushing, to 112.8 yards per game, 4.4 yards per carry. Colts are 17th, a little bit better, 116.7 yards per game, 4.5 yards per carry. Of course, the Patriots get that bump in the yards per carry from the quarterback running the ball, Drake May.
But the Colts do too.
They do as well. Yes, they do. You are completely correct. Defensively, which is what the Patriots' strong suit they thought would be with a defensive coach, it has been their better suit.
It's been better than the offense.
That's true.
The offense has been really, really bad, and sometimes that also has an impact on your defense.
Sure it does. We saw that early in the year with the Colts.
Absolutely.
We did? I don't remember that. Patriots are 19th in points allowed per game. They're giving up 23.5 per game. Colts are 16th, 22.8 per game. So right around the same spot there. Patriots 18th in rushing yards allowed, allowing 123 yards per game. And the Colts are 27th in rushing yards allowed, allowing 142 yards per game still at this point of the season. They've played some good rushing teams like the Lions last week, but 27th in rushing yards is...
They're giving up 130, 140 yards a game regardless.
Not great. Patriots are 22nd in passing yards per game. The Colts are 27th. Both around the 225, 235 yards per game range. Yards allowed total... Patriots 22nd, and Colts are 28th in yards allowed per game. Turnovers, that is what has done the Patriots in. They are -7 in turnover ratio, a bad number. They've only forced 9 turnovers in their 12 games this year. 4 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries, and they've turned it over 16 times themselves with 8 interceptions and 8 fumbles lost. The Colts are -1, which is still not a good number. You do not want to be below the Mendoza line here.
You need to be +5, +6.
Exactly.
That's where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. And they have forced 17 turnovers themselves, 8 interceptions, 9 fumble recoveries. But they've also surrendered 18 turnovers with 12 interceptions and 6 fumbles lost. The good news is that number did not increase after last week.
It didn't change one bit from last week.
So there's nothing you can do about bringing that number down. And last week they did not go up. So there you go. Good deal. Average time of possession, the Colts maintain 31st, second to last in the NFL in time of possession, 26 minutes and 22 seconds. Patriots are up at 19th at 29 minutes and 34 seconds. So you look at those stats across the board, it is there's no strong suit for either team. Like nobody is in the top half of the league. The best is the Colts defense in points allowed per game is 16th, I believe. And I think that's the highest number that we saw anywhere here, which is literally like the last team in the front half of the NFL. So these are two teams that are statistically in the back half of the NFL.
Bottom quartile.
The bottom quartile.
Haven't used that word in a while.
Oh boy, that's one that you would rather never hear again. We're in the top quartile of the first quartile, but the Jeff's just shaking his head back and forth.
The thing that scares me about this game is I still don't trust the defense, and it cannot allow the Patriots to do something that they've not done all year. So, and I guess I shouldn't be so hard on the defense because they're the reason that this season has not simply gone in the tank.
It is the reason that it's, for the most part, it's been one-score games this year because they kept it close enough.
And unfortunately with the defense, they can't afford the slip-up. These last 5 games, no one's really, again, Bo Nix has kind of gotten going, but there's no one that's just going to say, well, they're going to throw points at you. Mm-hmm. So you can't have the off game. They've used up all the games that they can have that off game, so they've really got to keep playing at their level, which is not high enough, but it's been good enough.
What does the defense in, and you guys can tell me what you think about this theory. It's probably terrible, but nevertheless, like I think Colts fans are more ready to accept an offense that struggles because of the quarterback, because he's young and he's developing. They're more ready to accept a struggling offense than they are a struggling defense. Because who do you have on defense? You have veterans over there. Mm-hmm. You have DeForest Buckner. You have Zaire Franklin. You have Kenny Moore. And the secondary, like as much as we talked about it at the start of the season,
very good. They've been playing pretty well.
Has really not been the problem overall. And like there have been times when it hasn't been great, obviously. And the Lions last week, they had a lot of crossers over the middle. I'll tell you, that's because the linebackers were sucked up trying to stop that run game. And then Goff just hit 10, 15 yards down the field. Jameson Williams over the middle. Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle. Whoever it was, Laporta over the middle. And it looked like he had like 8 yards of separation.
It was 7-on-7. Yeah. That's how open those guys were.
And it's because of the run game. I'll go back to that. But anyway, but like I said, I think if the roles were reversed and the defense was playing, and the defense was young and the offense was, how do I explain this? If the roles were reversed, I think Colts fans would be much more upset at the offensive coaching staff. You know what I'm saying? So, so that's kind of how I'm approaching the battle between, hey, the offense is trying to work and get better. The defense has clearly been the better of the two units over the past couple weeks, but still, it's the defense that is kind of the one that's receiving most of the ire among the Colts fan base.
I mean, the first couple of games, remember, the Gus must go.
Yep.
And there's still people that don't like the way he plays, and I understand that.
I get it.
But at the same time, I think this is probably a coaching staff decision, including Steichen, that we can't let these games get away from us. Like the Lions, there have been 2 or 3 games where, like the first game against Houston with Stroud, they weren't going to let him go deep and just really hit him with the chunk plays. And well, if that's your case, then there's going to be stuff open underneath.
Right.
So do you want to, it's a death by the paper cuts, or do you want to just get bludgeoned?
Yeah.
And there's still limitations with the defense. They need more takeaways. And Latu he may lead the league in almost sacks. He's had a pretty good year. The stats may not show it at the end, but they just have to close. And it helped to get Tyquan Lewis back last week.
Yep, I think so too.
He played pretty well. He's one of those guys.
He's just a solid player, man.
You just need him. You just do. And Buckner and Grover. Buckner, we've talked, and I just can't get past this, how he has decided to be a main part of a team that's not going anywhere. But he decided to really hitch his career to this, and you can't tell me they couldn't have gotten a pretty good package for DeForest Buckner for a team that needed an interior player. So good for Buck. But the problem is then he's not going to get the postseason accolades because he's playing on a team that's going to be at best 10-7, but probably 9-8.
Right. Yeah. We'll see that number at the end of the year when we get through these final 6 weeks and 5 games, as the Colts will play on the road this week in New England. Then they finally get their bye in week 14 of the NFL season. Then they're on the road again in Denver. So these 3 weeks pretty important. Then you get back home. I believe it's for Tennessee.
Yep, Titans.
And then in New York for the Giants, who knows what they're going to look like at that point.
Phil Simms might be quarterbacking at that time.
It's entirely possible. And then the last week is Jacksonville at home to close things out. But this week the focus is on New England and facing the Patriots. It is a 1:00 kickoff this Sunday, December 1st. We have December football, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And meaningful. I mean,
it is very much so.
Very, very meaningful.
And the game is on CBS4. You think you need a win to really keep things more meaningful. If you lose, it's do or die.
Then
it's do or die, and it's really more leading toward die at that point.
I just don't think you can lose any game. The closing. I guess you could lose this, and then if you beat Denver, you're sort of back on. But all you're doing is treading water, then you're not gaining anything.
Exactly. You look around at what other teams are doing, and Denver right now is not treading water. They're winning some games. Like Miami is winning games, and the Chargers are winning games. So you can't tread. You can't stay where you are, especially when you're the Colts are 5-7. Like that's not going to cut it. Every team right now, like I mentioned earlier in the show, that's in the playoffs has a winning record right now.
Right.
So if you want to get above that mark, you're going to have to win 3 more games now, or 2 more games than you lose. 3 more games, really, I guess. So it's going to have to be 4-1 to get that winning mark at the end of the season.
And to give yourself a chance.
Right, to give yourself a legitimate chance.
10-7 gets you in, 9-8. Depends on what Denver does.
It does. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to put yourself in that position where you say, it depends. It depends. 10-7, you'd feel a whole lot better right now. But with already 7 losses, well, that lets you know exactly what's on the line over these next couple weeks. The Colts are 3-point favorites.
There we go.
In New England for this game against the Patriots.
I've not seen it. I'm guessing the over-under is 40.
42.5. So, it's a sky-high over-under for this game for 2 teams that have not scored too many points. But Chap needs a pen. He's writing it down.
The numbers in my head.
Yeah, it's cooking right now. But we just
went. Put my number down before you guys steal it.
Exactly. We just went through. We'll let you go first then. I'll let you give you a minute just to make sure you have it. I'll go last this time. But we just ran through all those defensive rankings, and none of them were all that impressive. Maybe the folks in Vegas know something we don't, and think that this is going to be an offensive explosion.
They know things that we don't know.
They typically do. They do.
There was this game. Was it the other night with the over/under was 50-something, and it was the Ravens game.
Yep.
And it went over. The late score went over by 2.
Yep.
Because they know.
Like the bad beats that Scott Van Pelt does on the show
I love those.
is the best, the absolute best. Whether you're a bettor or not, like I think that's, and I'm not, and I think that's hilarious watching them. Just because it shows how much the people in Vegas know that it matters.
They'll
time.
show the game where there's bad beat, where there's basketball, whatever, and they'll show 2 guys in the front row. Some guy throws in a 3-pointer, and one guy's cheering, and the other guy is throwing his popcorn on the floor.
Yep.
And what's funny is they're starting to say on the broadcast, Al Michael's great at it.
Oh, yes.
Well, that score meant something to somebody, and that's when you say, the over/under, huh? And Tirico mentioned that the other night.
Yeah.
So I always say it's amazing how the NFL's gone from we're not going to be involved with gambling because we just can't.
Yep.
And now it's fully embraced.
We can't do that.
Bill Belichick is doing a gambling commercial for crying out loud.
Like I ordered some NFL shop gear for my kids for Christmas time, and they're not old enough to listen, so I'm not worried about it yet. They're 5 and 3. But anyway, like I got it, and then I got an email from them like the next day saying, you've earned bonus bets from NFL.com, saying you have bonus bets because you bought this gear. So absolutely, it's remarkable to see where the league has gone in that from where it was.
Isn't there a casino at Foxborough hooked up to the stadium?
Maybe. I'm trying to think.
I thought there was.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I couldn't tell you.
I can't.
I don't know.
Yeah,
because that's a great complex.
I remember the story of there being a casino in an NFL stadium, but I don't remember if it was New England. Like I was thinking of somewhere else, but it could be.
Is it Foxborough Stadium? Is that what it is?
Foxborough, yeah,
okay.
it's what it's called. So or Gillette Stadium.
Gillette
is what
Stadium
it's
in
called.
Foxborough.
So yeah, if you want to look that up, I can go.
Yeah.
No, you're just fiddle farting over there on your phone. Okay,
I do a lot of that. I'm looking it up. But go ahead.
Okay, no, then I'll go first if you want.
Yeah,
maybe I'll take your score then at the end of the day. Colts and Patriots this weekend. I see the Colts winning by a score of 20-16, and I don't think I have to explain that too much. I think that the Colts are a better team than the Patriots. I think that the defense is still going to be, what it has been the past couple weeks, and that is the better side. And you just need a little bit. You need a little bit from the offense. And you hope that Michael Pittman Jr. is fully healthy. Without Josh Downs, put A.D. Mitchell in there and see what the kid can do, I guess. And you have to tee off on Drake May. You just have to, with the offensive line in New England playing the way it is. Make him completely uncomfortable for the entire game.
And that's what you do with any quarterback with exactly. A rookie, certainly.
Mm-hmm. And I think you have a chance to do that. Matt, why don't you go, and then Chap will wrap it up.
I'm going to go, it's always deceptive to see these numbers and the rankings and stuff, but this just has the feel of like a 17-13 game to me. I'm going to go with the Colts.
17-13 Colts. Chap, what do you think?
I picked 23-17. And doing my math, that's 2 touchdowns and
it's 40 points right there. Yep.
And 3 Matt Gays, who is all of a sudden he has
suddenly getting it.
Is it 18 of 19? I think it is, with the one miss of 54-yard or whatever. He's got it back. Of course, it helps to kick 28 and 28 on field goals when the offense can't finish stuff. But this is the game again. Just what you said. The offense has to do enough, but the defense can't let a team that can't get things going. Yep. And I think this defense plays sound enough to where explosive plays shouldn't be an issue, and they'll get enough pressure on a young quarterback and make him do things that he's not quite ready to do.
Yeah. I know I've kind of come to Gus Bradley's defense the past couple weeks and just saying, hey, easy. I think he's fine. But this week I really do think it's on the defense. Unless the final score is 6-0 and you lose that way.
Right.
Like there's very little things that I think the defense could do to make it not on them in this game. They have to limit a bad offensive team to one of its worst showings of the season, or at least one of its normal showings of the season.
And the offense has to do something. These no touchdowns in 2 of the last 4 games. I mean, this is the modern NFL. You have to put up 17, 20, 24 points to give yourself a chance.
So we do hope you appreciated and enjoyed listening to the Colts Blue Zone podcast. You can download and subscribe, get us delivered to your podcast listening device as soon as we drop every week, usually Thursday, but this week, Wednesday. Good for you. Last week it was, I think, Friday because we had some technical difficulties along the way. We made it onto YouTube.
Say we shadow dropped on YouTube on Thursday.
Yeah. We made it somehow, in some way. But nevertheless, we think that problem is in the past and we're moving forward with it. Exactly. Matt making a certain symbol. And anyway, what was I going to say? Twitter, at Colts Blue Zone. You can follow us there. Mike Chappell is at mchappell51. You can read all his work online, fox59.com, cbs4indy.com. Matt Adams, at Statamatti. Dave Griffiths, at DaveG_sports. We'll see you next week on the Colts Blue Zone podcast.